Hands down, 2019 was an amazing year for comic books. And me as a comic book shopper, this was probably the first year where I've read more comic books, single issues, than I ever have. I have put so much money into my local comic book shop, FanQuest, shout out, that I've been able to read a lot of really good stories. And by far, one of my favorites was The Batman Who Laughs. The Batman Who Laughs is such interesting IP, and seeing him utilized as an apex predator, as a dark and twisted nightmare Batman, is both fun, horrifying, and rewarding. I mean, the miniseries plays out like a horror movie, and only made better by artist Jock's creepy and frenetic black inks. It's definitely worth a pickup. And this transitions into Batman Superman of 2019 that came out, and I love the dynamic duo together. So watching them as the Batman Who Laughs comes in and he starts to Jokerdize his own people in order to create more of that sense of chaos, the Secret Six, is fun. And with that, Greg Capullo and Scott Snyder come in to give us the last Batman story, Last Night on Earth. Like DC Metal before it, it's a wild dystopian Mad Max type story where it's the worst case scenario and Batman can only save us. And I had a lot of fun reading this. Moreover, Chip Zdarsky's Spider-Man life story is a work of art. I can't talk highly enough about this story because it perfectly blends all of the elements that make Spider-Man so unique and so powerful. It manages to weave a complex story that pays tribute to all of the Spider-Man mythos that came before. It's a story about family, about love, about sacrifice, and about responsibility. It's great. And then we had Tom Taylor, who came in and gave us a well thought out, completely complex, and also heart-wrenching story that brought us into a zombified DC universe. Zombies, a fucking zombie story that was tremendously bleak and hopeless, but at the same time, tugged at your heartstrings. This is one of those stories that I feel is going to be held up on a pedestal because of how beautiful it was. And just when I didn't think Boom Studios could give us anything better than Shattered Grid last year, we got the Necessary Evil storyline. And this storyline was great on so many different levels that I kept on collecting the covers, as well as also collecting a lot of variants. I am missing a couple, but these holographic Power Ranger ones are really nice, and I'm really digging the yearbook ones. However, I will get Trini very soon. Very, very, very soon. The story is both familiar and unique. It's a reimagining of Tommy's White Ranger powers, recontextualized in a world where Jason's Omega Rangers are necessary. Both the MMPR and Go-Go Power Ranger comics delve into a rich story of leadership juxtaposed through both Tommy and Jason. We get a thematic story about Tommy's Power Rangers and Jason's covert Omega ones. The layers of rich and psychological storytelling are rewarding for both Power Ranger fans. And it just felt great reading a story where Jason was kicking ass and where Tommy was more humanized in a way that I like him more. And then 2019 was the year that we finally got the end of Doomsday Clock. Jeff Johns, Gary Frank coming together after many years. Many people didn't think it was actually going to happen, but we got it. And in my opinion, it was definitely worth the wait. The art, the style, the tone, the fact that the Watchmen universe and the DC universe come together, everything about it was so grand, it was so big, and though it started off slow, it really built stronger and stronger. And I liked how it started as a Watchmen story, but kind of transformed into a Superman story towards the end. This is definitely one worth picking up because this is some great storytelling. Also, if I thought last year's X-Men was good, God, I was not ready for 2019 when we got Matthew Rosenberg come together and give us the last X-Men story. Right before Jonathan Hickman came aboard, we got the rebirth, the recreation, the whatever you want to call it, of Cyclops. My favorite X-Men character was back. And not only that, we were put into a world that was filled with fear and hate, and the X-Men were gone. And so we got to build on the ultimate bromance between Scott and Logan. And that's one of the big appeals for this story. It's these two coming together, which leads me to my favorite story of 2019. The greatest comic was definitely Jonathan Hickman's House of X and Powers of X. I cannot describe the feelings of elation of going to the comic book store and getting an issue every week. I have to say, you must believe the hype because this is storytelling at its finest. Not only did Jonathan Hickman create an in-world, that felt strong and changed the status quo for the mutant species, but it felt important. There were shocks, there were crazy events, and it really builds a whole new world and made the X-Men important again. Where Rosenberg brought Cyclops back from the brink, Hickman completely changed the surface of what an X-Men story could be. I'm not going to go into much more detail because this is definitely a story you should read because it is worth your time. It is worth your money. If I could pick any story in 2019 that was my favorite, it has to be this combo because you can't read House of X or Powers of X by themselves. It is a cohesive unit that gives us some of the best storytelling that I have read in many years. The epic conclusion of the story really gives me hope for the future of X-Men titles. Dawn of X has been really good as well, so I have to say, if you want to read anything this year, this is your go-to.